Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
Have you ever felt the sting of being ignored? Have you noticed how silence can feel louder than words? And have you wondered why the quiet hurts more than the noise? When someone ignores you, a heavy silence follows. It's not just an unanswered message or a call that goes unnoticed. It's deeper than that. It's the sudden absence of presence, a connection cut without warning. And here's the truth most avoid: silence is never empty. Silence is full of meaning. It carries more weight than any argument and more clarity than any excuse. Sometimes the loudest message you'll ever receive is the one that isn't spoken. Think about it. Words can be twisted. People can say what they think you want to hear, masking intentions with smiles and polite gestures. But silence doesn't lie. When someone chooses not to acknowledge you, it's because something inside them has shifted, and that shift is real. I know it hurts. Deep down, you want to believe there's another reason. You tell yourself they're busy, distracted, or simply forgot. But if you watch closely, you'll see a pattern. And patterns don't lie. That silence keeps returning, not by accident, but by choice. The problem is we've been trained to fear silence, to fill it with noise, to send another text, to push for an answer. But here's the truth. You don't need to chase what's already speaking to you through absence. That silence is a message. It's showing you how little they value your voice, where you truly stand in their priorities. And once you recognize it, you can't unsee it. Because people who care about you will never leave you guessing. They may have moments when they can't reply right away, but they will never consistently make you feel invisible. The ones who truly love you fight to keep the connection alive because they know the pain of losing someone who matters. But when a person is comfortable letting the bond fade, when they can go days, weeks, or even months without speaking, that's not just silence. That's a decision. And here's where the real test begins. How will you respond? Will you let that silence push you into desperation, or will you let it open your eyes? Will you spend your energy forcing a connection that's already slipping away, or will you accept that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stop knocking on a closed door? There is power in not answering silence with more noise. There is strength in letting the quiet stand. Because when you do, you create space to hear something far more important. Your own thoughts, your own worth, your own voice reminding you that you are enough, even without their attention. Some of you right now are in that place. You've been ignored by a friend, a partner, maybe even a family member, and you're carrying that ache in your chest, wondering what you did wrong. But perhaps it's not about what you did wrong. Perhaps it's about what you finally need to see. That silence could be the truth you've been avoiding, the signal that this chapter is closing and you're meant to move on. Silence has a way of stripping away illusions. It reveals what words often hide. It forces us to accept that not everyone who begins with us will finish with us. And yes, it's painful. Yes, it feels like rejection. But maybe, just maybe, it's protection. If their silence speaks louder than their words ever did, don't turn away. Listen, because in that silence lies the truth you've been searching for all along. Some people think communication is only about words. They believe if someone isn't speaking, there's nothing to hear. But the truth is, ignoring someone is its own language. It's a choice, a decision to send a message without saying a word. And often that unspoken message is louder than anything they could have told you. When a person withdraws, when they refuse to answer, look at you, or even acknowledge your presence, it's not random, it's intentional. Sometimes it's to create distance, sometimes to punish, sometimes to prove control. But whatever the reason, ignoring is still communication. It reveals their mindset, their priorities, and the place you truly hold in their life. Yet this is where many get stuck. We think, if I can just get them to talk, everything will be fine. We chase after explanations, send message after message, desperate for a reply. But while chasing their words, we miss the louder voice, the voice of their actions. And actions speak louder than any excuse. Ignoring is one of the clearest ways someone tells you, I'm not willing to meet you where you are. Think about it. If someone truly values you, they won't leave you in confusion. Even in anger, they'll tell you where they stand. But silence says something else. It says, your feelings aren't my priority right now. It says, I won't invest my time or energy in this conversation. And when it happens again and again, it's not about being busy. Everyone gets busy, but people make time for who they truly value. Ignoring strips away all excuses and exposes the truth about priority, respect, and the worth they place on the connection. It forces you to face the reality of how much effort someone is truly willing to put into you. I know it hurts. That silence feels like rejection, and rejection stings like few things can. It pierces your pride, your heart, and your hope all at once. Yet sometimes that sting is exactly what wakes us up. Because when someone chooses to ignore you, they're showing you who they really are when there's no mask to hide behind. You don't need to beg someone to speak if they've already decided not to. You don't need to keep knocking on a door locked from the inside. Your worth isn't tied to another person's willingness to acknowledge you. The moment you understand this, you begin to taste freedom. Some of you are still holding on to people who've been communicating through distance for months, maybe even years. Their silence has been telling you they don't want to engage. Yet you keep clinging to the hope that one day they'll turn back and embrace you again. Hope in itself isn't wrong, but ignoring the truth staring you in the face is dangerous. Because ignoring is never neutral, it's an active choice. It's a decision to step away from connection. And once you see it clearly, you can begin making choices for yourself that are just as deliberate, just as powerful. Choices like walking away. Choices like protecting your peace. Choices like giving your energy to people who don't need to be reminded you exist. We resist seeing ignoring as communication because it forces us to face hard truths. It's easier to believe they're just distracted, that life simply got in the way. But deep down, you know the difference between someone who's briefly absent and someone who's deliberately absent. And once you see that difference, you can't unsee it. Freedom comes when you stop trying to pull words from someone who has already spoken through silence. That's when the feeling of powerlessness begins to fade. That's when you realize you've been given a message, maybe not the one you wanted, but the one you needed to face reality. Because ignoring is still communication. It may be quiet, but it carries meaning. And if you pay attention, you'll recognize they've already told you everything. It's strange how silence can cut deeper than words ever could. When someone ignores you, it feels like they've reached into your chest and quietly turned off the light that once kept your connection alive. You feel it immediately. The weight in your stomach, the knot in your throat, the ache in your heart. It hurts, and it hurts deeply. And why? Because you cared. You valued that person. You invested your time, your emotions, your trust. You believed they saw you the way you saw them. That's why their silence feels like betrayal, because it comes not from a stranger, but from someone you let close. But here's the truth about pain. It's not only a wound, it's also a warning. That ache in your chest is your heart's way of saying something isn't right. It's not just a sign that they've changed. It's a call for you to change, too. Pain can feel cruel, but often it's the loudest alarm clock you'll ever hear. It shakes you awake after you've been asleep to reality for too long. We tell ourselves things will return to how they used to be, that if we wait long enough they'll remember our worth, that if we keep showing up for them, one day they'll show up for us. But if you've lived it, you know how dangerous that hope becomes. You wait, you try, you give, and in the process, you bleed. Yet they remain distant. They leave you feeling invisible. They choose silence instead of connection. Sometimes the pain you carry is not punishment. It's a sign you've been pouring yourself into someone who refuses to pour anything back. And that's when the real decision comes. Do you keep proving your worth to someone who refuses to see it? Or do you finally prove it to yourself by walking away? Pain is a harsh but powerful teacher, if you let it speak. It teaches you where to set your boundaries. It teaches you who values you and who only uses you when it's convenient. It teaches you that love without respect isn't love at all. And yes, it teaches you that sometimes the very person you thought would hold your hand will be the one to let it go when you need them most. In those moments, there's a dangerous temptation, the belief that if you just fix yourself, they'll return. Maybe you've told yourself you weren't enough, that's why they pulled away. But hear me clearly. Their choice to ignore you is not proof of your lack of value. More often, it reveals their inability to appreciate it. Some people simply cannot handle the depth of care you give. Some cannot return the loyalty you so freely offer. And instead of facing their shortcomings, they choose distance. That's why the hurt you feel is more than pain. It's a sign that your heart is not being fed. A sign that you've been giving more love than you've received. A sign that the energy you keep pouring into them is energy you need to start pouring back into yourself. Letting go is never easy. Your heart wants to believe it isn't over. Your mind replays every laugh, every memory, every kind word, and whispers, maybe they'll change. But waiting doesn't create change. Change begins when you decide your peace matters more than their presence. The beautiful thing about pain is its power to shape you. The wound that feels unbearable today can become the scar that proves your resilience tomorrow. The moment that makes you cry now can be the very moment that makes you proud later. Proud that you found the courage to stop begging for love. Be proud that you chose to respect yourself enough to move forward. So if you're hurting right now because someone you love has ignored you, don't see it only as rejection. See it as direction. See it as a sign that you were never meant to keep chasing what's running away. Let it be the moment you realize the love you've been fighting to get from them is the very love you've needed to give yourself all along. When someone ignores you, it feels deeply personal. It feels like an attack on your worth, like proof that you're not as important as they once made you believe. And in that moment, you stand at a crossroads. One path leads to anger, another to despair. But there's a third path, a hidden one, that turns this pain into a test of your emotional strength. Life has a way of using people's actions, or their absence, to reveal how steady your heart really is. It's easy to stay calm when everyone praises you, responds to you, or gives you attention. But your true measure shows when the attention disappears, when the voices go silent, when the people you counted on step away. In those moments, you'll hear two whispers inside. One says, "You're not enough." That's why they turned away. The other says, "You are enough." They just can't see it. Which voice you choose to believe will decide not just how you feel now, but who you'll become after this storm passes. Because being ignored has a way of digging up every insecurity you thought you buried. It makes you question your worth, your value, even your place in this world. And that's why it's such a powerful test, not of your patience with them, but of your patience with yourself. The question is this: will you crumble under the weight, or will you rise taller than before? Yes, it's hard to stand proud when your heart feels heavy. It's hard to hold your dignity when you feel discarded. But there is something remarkable about the person who refuses to let someone else's silence define them. There is power in saying, "I hear your silence, but I will not let it silence me." Sometimes this test feels like a storm. You sense the wind of rejection, the rain of loneliness, the thunder of unanswered questions. In that storm, you crave shelter in their approval. You think of sending one more message, making one more call, just to feel connected again. But every storm carries the same hidden choice. Will you let it push you down, or will you plant your feet and face it head on? This is where real growth happens. Not when they return, not when they explain, but when you realize you can survive without their response. That's the moment you discover a new kind of strength, the kind that doesn't need constant validation to feel alive, the kind that isn't shaken every time someone pulls away. We spend so much time trying to control others, as if our happiness depends on them treating us the way we want. But the truth is, the only thing you control is your response. You can't stop them from ignoring you, but you can stop yourself from losing dignity because of it. You can stop handing them the power to define how you feel about yourself. And when you pass this test, when you choose not to chase, not to beg, not to fold, something powerful happens. You begin building emotional muscle. Just like lifting weights tears your muscles so they can grow back stronger, these moments tear at your pride so your confidence can rebuild unshakable. Soon, the silence that once crushed you will feel different. It won't sting the same way. It won't steal your sleep. You'll see it clearly for what it is, their choice, their loss, not your reflection. That's when you know you've passed the test. Because it's not about pretending you don't care. It's about not letting their silence control you anymore. Some of you right now are in the middle of that storm, trapped in the silence, wondering if you'll ever feel okay again. And I want to remind you, you will. But only if you stop letting them dictate the terms of your peace. Only if you decide that your emotional strength is not tied to their attention. In the end, their silence isn't the real test. You are. Every time someone ignores you, it feels like a door is closing. At first, it looks like rejection, as if the world is taking something away. But if you take a step back and really look, you may realize that a closed door isn't always there to keep you out. Sometimes it's meant to guide you somewhere else. What feels like an ending might actually be the beginning of something better. Life has a strange way of redirecting us, though we often miss it because we're too focused on what we've lost. We ask ourselves, why did they turn away? What did I do wrong? Why didn't they value me enough to stay? And in that pain, we overlook the truth that maybe they weren't meant to be part of the next chapter of our story. Their silence is not always punishment. Sometimes it's a sign to invest your love, time, and energy where it will be valued and returned. It's natural to want to hold on to people who've been part of our lives. We believe a long history should guarantee a long future. But history doesn't always equal destiny. Some people are only meant to walk with you for a season. And when that season ends, clinging too tightly can keep you from stepping into the relationships and opportunities waiting for you. When someone ignores you, it forces you to face the truth about the balance in that relationship. Were you always the one reaching out? Were you the one carrying the weight while they only showed up when it suited them? Their absence may be exposing what you didn't want to see, that you've been pouring into a place that doesn't pour back. And this is where the shift begins. Instead of chasing those who don't value your presence, start noticing the ones who do. Pay attention to the people who return your calls, who remember your words, who sense when something is wrong without you saying a thing. Those are the people worthy of your time. Those are the ones who truly see you. Too often, we become so fixated on the one who ignores us that we overlook those who actually cherish us. Rejection narrows our vision, making us stare at the closed door while missing the open ones all around. Many times, life removes people from our path not to harm us, but to create space for better connections, people who respect, understand, and give without keeping score. Of course, it's not easy to accept. Your heart will fight, wanting to keep knocking, hoping the door will open again. But ask yourself this: if you have to struggle so hard just to be noticed, are you really where you belong? You can't build love, friendship, or any relationship on one-sided effort. When someone ignores you, they're showing exactly how much they're willing to invest. And as painful as that truth may be, it's also freeing. Now you know where you stand, and you can choose to put your energy where it will grow. Think of it like a garden. If you keep watering barren ground, nothing will bloom. But pour that same water into fertile soil, and life will flourish. Your time, your care, your love, these are the water. Don't waste them on places that can't grow, simply because you once hoped they would. Some of the greatest blessings in life often arrive disguised as disappointments. The people who walked away, the ones who stayed silent when you needed them most, may have been clearing space for those who will lift you up, speak life into you, and remind you of your worth. What feels like loss today may one day be the redirection you thank God for. So when someone ignores you, see it as a sign to stop chasing where you aren't valued and start moving toward where you are. It's natural to feel like you've lost something important. You replay moments in your head, wondering what went wrong, wishing things could return to how they once were. But sometimes, what looks like loss is actually freedom in disguise. Their absence might be the very thing releasing you from what was quietly holding you back. Strange, isn't it? How we grow so used to certain people, even when their presence isn't truly good for us. We adapt to the way they speak, the way they treat us, even the way they make us feel small without realizing it. We overlook the subtle signs, the times they dismiss our feelings, the way they question our worth, or the lack of effort they put into keeping the connection alive. We tell ourselves it's normal, because keeping the peace feels easier than facing the truth. And then one day, they start ignoring you. At first, it stings. You feel rejected, unwanted. But over time, if you really pay attention, something shifts. Life feels quieter, lighter. You're no longer glued to your phone, waiting for a reply. You're no longer walking on eggshells, trying to say the right thing just to keep them close. Without even realizing it, you begin to breathe easier. That's the hidden gift of being ignored. It creates distance. And sometimes, distance is exactly what you need to see the truth. When you're too close, you can't always recognize the harm being done to your peace. But when they step back, whether out of selfishness or pride, they unknowingly give you the space to see what life feels like without their shadow. Some people will never admit they've been toxic. They may even believe they've done nothing wrong. But by ignoring you, they unintentionally cut the rope that kept you tied to their control. They hand you the chance to stand on your own. And yes, that first step is painful, but it's also the first step toward freedom. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop fighting for someone's attention. You begin to realize your worth doesn't come from being noticed by them. It comes from how you see yourself. And the more you step into that truth, the less their silence weighs on you. What once felt like a heavy chain now feels like an open gate. Think about it. If someone can walk away so easily, were they ever a foundation you could build on? Or were they a wall holding you back? Sometimes what we thought was supporting us was really keeping us from moving forward. And when that barrier is gone, we finally see the path that was waiting all along. You finally have the space to grow into who you were meant to be. That doesn't mean you won't miss them. You might. You might still feel the ache when a memory resurfaces. But missing someone doesn't mean you need them back. You can cherish the moments you shared while still being grateful that chapter has closed. Because now you're no longer trapped in the cycles that kept you small. Freedom doesn't always come with celebration. Sometimes it arrives quietly in the form of silence. Sometimes it's disguised as pain, but if you look closely, you'll see the truth. You're free. Free from the games. Free from the uncertainty. Free from the constant need to prove you're worth their time. And here's the most powerful part. Once you embrace that freedom, you open the door for people who truly want to be in your life. People who don't disappear when things get hard. People who see you, hear you, and value you without you having to fight for it. That's the life you deserve. And sometimes the only way to step into it is for someone else to walk away. So if someone is ignoring you right now, pause and consider. Maybe this isn't the tragedy it feels like. Maybe it's the beginning of your release. Maybe it's life whispering, "You've carried this long enough. Now you can walk lighter." Wishing you health, strength, and happiness. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.